Good morning and welcome to the policy discussion for IT department. Policy number 1 is new user system access. New user system access. There's usually a way of doing things. That is why policies are policies. So when there is a new staff in a department and you see the person and identify the person, oh, you are a new person in front office. What is your name? My name is Victoria. Okay, come, let me give you access. Is that how it's done? No. That is not how it's done. So by this policy, we want to understand clearly what we should do when there's a new person in the hotel that requires access to the hotel system. So that is the essence. That is what we are about to discuss. So the purpose of this is to ensure all those newcomers entitled to have access to a PC are given the means within a specified time frame upon joining the hotel. What is the procedure? Let's carefully look at this. Only authorized personnel with a confirmed need will be allowed access to the workstations, not anybody. So that means that you should also have your own documentation that gives you authorization to give someone access. Is that not so? You need to have your own documents. For instance, I could just walk into the front office and I'll ask for the name of somebody and I'll ask the person, do you have access to our system? The person says yes. Then I will tell the IT department, let me see the procedures used in giving this person access to our system. You don't just create it. So you can see that only authorized personnel with a confirmed need will be allowed access to the workstations. Confirmed need is also important, so that nobody will call you from a manager will say, please give this person access, and you know that that person does not need access to do his or her job. If you as an IT person grant the access, you are the one who has gone wrong. So upon the event of a new hire or transfer of a family member into a job that requires access to the workstation, human resources will complete and forward the new user system access form to the department head and general manager for review and signed approval. So we have a document for this which we will implement moving forward. So what that means now is that for everybody who already has access, we have to do this for them. We have to do this. So the request is supposed to come from which department? Human resource. The request should come from which department? Human resource. So the request comes from the human resource department through the head of department. All right? Through the head of department, approved by the general manager. Then you can now create that document. So I want to see this for every single person who has access to the hotel system. Now, human resource will advise the family member's immediate supervisor when the form has been returned and if approved or disapproved. Now, human resource manager can initiate the request, take it to the head of department, let's say the front office manager, that, okay, this is a new staff, has already been confirmed that this is a new staff who is going to be working in the front office department, and we are about to send a request to the IT department for that person to be given access. Now, the front office manager has a right to minute on that to say not yet. Are you getting me? The front office manager has a right to minute to say not yet. This person is not ready. So can you see how you protect yourself? Because if you're just told verbally, create access, give access, create username, give password, and you go ahead and if something goes wrong, who do we hold? The IT. So policies are actually made to protect you as a staff. All right? Policies are made to protect you as a staff, to protect the organization, and to serve the customers well. Because if there is a request from the HR department, the head of department approves that this person is qualified and fit to be given user, then the IT department will go ahead and create it. And if you create it and something goes wrong, you are exempted. Is that not so? All you have to do is to bring out the document that says, this is the HR request, approved by the head of department and the general manager, authorizing me to create access. So let me ask you, Mr. CJ, All the people who have access, do you have any documents? None. So how have you been creating access? You are told verbally, right? So can you see that we have been doing things wrongly? You've seen it clearly. So what that means now is that you and your department, you are at risk if anything goes wrong. That's just what it means. Because as far as I'm concerned, nobody authorized you. Nobody authorized you to create all the access. Can you prove that you were authorized? There is no evidence. So policy number 1, very key, very important. So human resource will advise the family member's immediate supervisor when the form has been returned and if approved or disapproved. So it is when it is approved that it gets to your table. You are authorized and you keep your own copy. Are we clear? Now, until an approved new user system access form on file in the hotel HR office, the newly hired or transferred family member will not be allowed access to the workstation. Completed new user system access form should be kept in the file with human resources and should be reviewed by IT manager and HR every quarter. So can you see? Even those you have created access for, a copy approved to have access to the workstation is supposed to be in their file. Are you getting me? It's supposed to be in their file. Why you will have your own copy as well. So what that means now is that every single department, you need to create a folder for all the departments. Then anytime you are given that form, you file it in that place. Is that not so? You file it there and keep it well, so that whenever you are asked, you bring out the documents. So a copy is kept and is reviewed. Tomorrow somebody can say, no, I wasn't given any access. I was not given any access to the system. You don't have to break your head too much. All you need to do is to go to your own file, or you go to the person's file and you will see if that person was given access to the workstation or not. So that is all about new user access. New user access. This is what this policy says, but we are going to review this. For Crispan, what is applicable is that the department, the head of department will raise the request. So the head of department will raise the request for new user to be granted access. That form or request form goes to the HR department. The HR will look at it and be sure that that person is part of the work system, then approves the request that has been raised by the head of department. Then take that request form to the GM, who will now authorize the IT department to create access for the new user. So that is the policy for Crispan when it has to do with granting a new user access to our workstation. From the head of department first to the human resource, from human resource to the general manager, then the general manager authorizes the IT department. Thank you. Another thing we are going to be adding to this policy on new user is that henceforth the HR department will notify IT department of any staff that has been terminated or disengaged, and the access to the workstation will be disabled by the IT department within 24 hours of notification. So this is also another added policy. Moving forward, IT department will have a documentation, a record of all the staff who have access to workstations, their username, and the level of access granted to him or her. Thank you. All right, so for the form used in creating a new user access, the head of department will raise the request first. It goes to the human resource department. Human resource approves, sends it to the general manager. The general manager authorizes the IT department policy on password for the IT department. Let's see the purpose. Crispan suite must implement a formal management process for allocation of passwords and other means of validating a user's identity to access an information system or service. A password management system provides an effective interactive facility that ensures the quality of passwords. Passwords are the primary mechanism for validating a user's identity to access our system. All passwords must adhere to the following security requirements. Now, this is the procedure for passwords in Crispan. For systems requiring a standard authentication scheme, email access and access to non-sensitive information require password format and content that meets the following criteria: minimum length of 7 characters, alphanumeric, no common nouns, e.g. crystals, sports teams, locations, or names may be used in the passwords, no more than 3 consecutive identical characters, mix of numeric and alphabetical characters, no all numeric or all alphabetical characters. So we have to abide by this in creating passwords. It has to be strong, especially passwords that will be used within the hotel premises on our workstation. So this is a clue: minimum length of 7 characters. So once in a while we would have to look at. So what that means now is that every single password has to comply with this. So you have to have a template for creating passwords for front office people. You have to have a template for creating passwords for housekeeping that complies with this, so that the password is strong and cannot be replicated. Someone else cannot generate it. No dictionary words may be used as passwords. Password must not be based on existing information a person could easily guess or obtain using person-related information, e.g. names, telephone numbers, and dates of birth. Don't use a staff name to create a password. Require password aging of at least 13 previous passwords. Ensure vendor default passwords are changed or removed immediately. Now, people who come to do jobs, once they are done, you should disable. Require passwords to expire at least every 90 days. All right? Every 90 days. So that is also a way of ensuring that there is no abuse of password. So that even if HR, one way or the other, forgot to notify you about a staff who has left the premise, with this policy in place, every 90 days, passwords are changed. It has a way of putting checks. Now, suspend access after 4 consecutive unsuccessful login attempts. This has to be implemented just in case someone else is trying to use someone's password. If the person tries after the 4th time, it should be disabled automatically. When suspended, the account can only be unlocked by a system administrator. So when it's suspended, the person has to come back to IT department. Don't even go to them. They have to come back to IT department, and the process has to be repeated again. All right? The process has to be repeated again. When a password is suspended, the process of recreating it has to start from the head of department requesting and saying the reason why he or she is requesting. Then it comes as authorization. Nobody should walk to the IT department, oh, please help me, oh, I forgot my password, or help me, oh. You have to find out, investigate. Why did you forget? What happened? Passwords must never be displayed, e.g. must be replaced with a hash character while user enters his or her password. So that is all about password. Okay, so now that we have the policy on new user access, and we also have the policy on passwords, when staff loses his or her password or forgets and needs to request, the duty manager or the night duty manager would raise the emergency form for change of password, which serves as authorization to the IT department to quickly help in resetting the password so that the staff can continue with his or her work. Now that form has to be photocopied and also given to the HR department to file in the staff file that his or her password was reset at so time. And that form must also be acknowledged by the staff. Then the IT department would also file their own copy for every single password that has been reset. Thank you. So, the third policy, which is protection from virus and malicious attacks. Policy number 3 for IT. Now, Crispan suite must implement precautions to prevent and detect the introduction of malicious software, such as computer viruses, network worms, Trojan horses, and logic bombs. Users must be made aware of the dangers of unauthorized or malicious software and must, where appropriate, introduce controls to detect or prevent its introduction. Any system that has been infected with a virus, e.g. malicious software, computer viruses, network worms, Trojan horses, and logic bombs, must inform the IT manager for virus removal process. So that we have to inform them. Now, what is the procedure? All software in use must be properly licensed and must be approved by Crispan suite. No malicious software should be stored on any desktop system, laptop, or application server located within the hotel's environment. Crispan suite JAWS users must not intentionally write, generate, compile, copy, collect, propagate, execute, or attempt to introduce any computer code designed to self-replicate, damage, or otherwise hinder the performance of or access to any computer, network, or information. Always run the C standard supported antivirus software. Never open any files or macros attached to an email from an unknown, suspicious, or untrustworthy source. Delete spam, chain, and other junk emails. All usage of open source software must be carefully reviewed for malicious code prior to use. All workstations must implement antivirus software, must be installed and enabled on all workstations. Users must not disable or modify the antivirus software or its configuration. Antivirus definition files must be kept up to date on all workstations, usually through the use of auto-update features inherent in antivirus software. Make sure all antivirus mechanisms are capable of generating audit logs. Suspected virus outbreaks must be reported to IT manager. All machines connecting to Crispan, internally or externally, must be known to be free from any form of malicious code. Any system suspected of being infected must be disconnected from the network immediately and not reconnected until the appropriate IT manager declares it safe. So that is all about the policy. So this is what we are going to do. Alright, so still on the policy for protection from virus and malicious attacks, this would happen in Crispan. There's going to be a routine check by the IT department of every single system that is in use in Crispan, and that would happen within the last week of every month. That systems have been checked, antivirus installed, scanning of the system carried out, and updating whatever file that needs to be updated, deleting things that need to be deleted from everyone's system, so that every first week of a new month the systems are good for use. So this will now become the policy for the protection from virus and malicious attack. Also, users will be educated on how to protect the system from virus and from things that can be very harmful to it. And every user would sign an acknowledgement that I am aware of this and I take responsibility to take care of my system. Thank you. Okay, so here we are, the fourth policy under the IT department, information security policy. Information security policy. Let's see what we have here. Now, the purpose: data are important business assets. They are essential to maintain our competitive edge, profitability, legal compliance, and respected organizational image. It is therefore important to have these data used exclusively for authorized business purposes, as well as to have data handled correctly and with optimum regard to security and discretion. Now, the procedure. All data must be obtained and processed fairly and lawfully. No person should be deceived or misled about the purpose for which their data is to be processed. Personal data must not be used or disclosed for any reason incompatible with its original purpose. Personal data must be obtained only for specific and lawful purposes with permission from the data subject for each use. Personal data has to be adequate, relevant, and not excessive in relation to the purpose for which the data is meant to be processed. So when you want to create, let's say you want to create user access and you're asking some questions, personal questions from the person, it has to be something relevant and not investigating or intruding into one's private affairs. Data should also be accurate and kept up to date within reason. Personal data should not be kept for longer than is necessary for the purpose it is intended for. Data subjects have the right to access their personal data. They also have the right to prevent processing that is likely to cause damage or distress. Additionally, they have the right to prevent processing for the purposes of direct marketing. Moreover, data subjects have rights in relation to automated decision-making, including the right to have logic explained to them. Personal data must be available to the individual concerned on request, and provision made for corrections. Back up or destroy data when no longer needed by an approved method with respect to the applicable laws. Data is kept up to date and not for longer than necessary. Data subjects have access to their personal data. Anyone providing data or a data communication network must ensure that the data involved are sufficiently confidential, available, and free of inaccuracy. In particular, the systems must be protected against unauthorized, accidental, or unintentional destruction, loss or technical malfunction, forgery, theft, or illegal use, unauthorized or unlawful modification, copying, access or disclosure, or other unauthorized processing. Workstations handling sensitive Crispan suite data are positioned so that unauthorized viewing of the screens is avoided. Information data carriers are locked up during long absences and in general outside the working hours. No computer resources may be accessed without logging via user ID and password. Every IT user has only access to the data and functionality necessary to do his or her job. Access to information assets classified as confidential or higher must be explicitly authorized, the default being no access. So from the IT department, everyone is required to have access to carry out his or her duty. If the person wants to view anything above him, access must be granted. So it should be an automatic denial unless access is granted by the IT department. Now, the access rights and privileges of staff which change their business function or organizational units or leave the employment of Crispan suites are removed immediately upon their departure, and we have 24 hours time. So anyone who has stopped working with Crispan suites and event center, HR department sends a message to the IT department and user access is disabled within 24 hours. Individuals receiving data media from within or outside Crispan suite from any source have the responsibility for ensuring it is checked for viruses before use. Data must only be downloaded under the following conditions. All data are checked for viruses using an IT security approved method and tools before they are installed on Crispan suite system. All data are business relevant and appropriate and are acquired and used in compliance with Crispan suits and legal requirements. The installation of software downloaded from the internet is subject to the standard software installation mechanisms. Backup requirements are explicitly defined and documented. Computer and network backup storage media is stored in a separate file zones from the machine producing the backup. Sensitive data and data carriers which are not used anymore must be disposed of in such way that the data cannot be subsequently reconstructed. For example, documents on paper are shredded. Employees and third parties access to Crispan sense of business critical data is allowed under especially tight control. All user IDs have the associated privileges revoked if no longer needed. User rights and privileges are periodically recertified by their management and the asset owners. Crispan Suite's approved latest virus protection software is installed and used for detection and prevention to eliminate the risk of data being infected by virus. Data is backed up periodically according to business needs. Data is well protected during transmission and when stored. Recovery procedure for backups is regularly tested and verified working. Full hotel hardware software's inventory to be given to GM each 3 months. Spot check from income auditor at any time for all hardwares and softwares are to be sent to the GM. That will be all for now. Thank you.